Greetings, everyone. We are always so excited to have you. And we always give folks a couple minutes. We're going to start in about 3 minutes. I'm going to give folks 3 minutes to just get on into the room, get comfy, get your water. If you need to use the bathroom, go use the bathroom. Best of all, get your pen and paper out, because I have found, I don't even want to count how many webinars I've delivered in the past 5 years. It's been many. I was delivering webinars even before 5 years ago. I see some goal accelerating moms in here. So the goal accelerator moms would know I'm always delivering webinars. I'm like a webinar pro. And so what I can say is that you should have your pen and paper out, because whatever you hear is, you should just be thinking about your child and your situation and your goals, and you want to interpret and apply the information to your context. So get your pen and paper out and just make a note of the things you will need to keep in mind. As I said in the email, it's okay not to know, because then you know you don't know and you find answers. The danger is when you don't know what you don't know. And so we're here to just give you some of those insights, and we're thrilled to have you. So go ahead, get comfy, grab your water. I'm gonna grab my water. I should have grabbed it by now, but that's okay. And we're gonna start in 2 minutes. I'm so happy to see current parents, former parents, parents with other children returning to the fold. It's very exciting. Give folks 2 more minutes to pile in, and then we're gonna get going. I hope you guys have questions. I want this to be an opportunity for you to ask whatever questions you might have. And I'm excited to get going. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, let us get going. Welcome to AIM's Open House. We are absolutely thrilled to be here. My name is Nicole McLaren Campbell. I am the founder of AIM. I am joined by Dominique Folks and Brianna Ellis. Dominique is our head tutor here at AIM. She was once a student not too long ago, and is a recent graduate of the University of Miami, aka the New Harvard. Actually have two UM graduates here because Brianna is also a UM graduate. I must really attract UM graduates. And now a PhD student at Rice University, where she's doing a PhD in economics or math, and math. Math was her undergraduate major.
A little bit of both, quantitative economics.
Quantitative economics. Now, I was an econ major, but not the quantitative type. Okay, let's end it there. And then we have with us Brianna, a college counselor at Amor, head college counselor, with a background in teaching and a real passion for helping students find their best fit. And as I said, I'm Nicole McLaren Campbell. For those of you who don't know me, I see some very familiar parents here, and some new names, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you have chosen to spend a little time with us this afternoon. I'm excited about this conversation because we are going to talk about the college admission trends of 2024, what we noticed. We're going to talk about predictions for the 2025-2026 cycle. Dominique, as head tutor, is really, I would say, mostly in charge of our SAT program here at AIM, which is a signature program of ours. We actually did not start AIM doing any SAT prep, which is really interesting. We just did, it was only me, just did college advising, college counseling, essays, but we realized how important the SAT was for scholarships and admissions, and that's when we started teaching it. And since then, it has been a wild ride, because the vid, as I call it, the thing that starts with a C and ends with vid, also happened and kind of shook things up. And now there's this new norm that we're sort of settling into, which has various implications depending on where you find yourself in this process. So that's going to be a major topic that we're going to talk about today. And Dominique is going to take us through understanding our SAT program here at AIM, because it's very different from what it used to be. It used to simply be an SAT class, and it's no longer that. No, it's the college gateway, which is really different. And the reason is because college admissions has changed. And if we are not changing with it, then I don't think we're serving our students in the best way. And so now, instead of just getting a high score, we are very much focused on helping our students to reach their actual goals in this process. And so we understand that while the SAT is important and is increasingly important, but we'll get to that, that there are other things that are very important and that drive this process and often mean the difference between success and not success. And so I can't sleep at night, knowing that I'm giving parents and students come to AIM, and then I'm giving them some of it, but not making them know, at least make sure everybody understands what else there is, and that we deliver a program that can help them to deal with the other aspects that are so important. So we call it the college gateway because it is literally the gateway to college. Of course, it includes the signature SAT class, which I know a lot of you are on here now to ask about, when Dominique is going to go into that. And then Brianna and I will touch some other aspects of the program, including the one-on-one meeting that every single student who does our SAT program gets a one-on-one meeting with our college counselor to determine next steps. They get one-on-one meetings with their tutor. Parents, you are just totally kept abreast of everything and invited in to chat with your child's tutor. So it's an online program, but with a lot of monitoring and supervision. And then we're going to talk about some of the 2024 things that we noticed, and the results and the trends, and how you can then position your child for success. We also are going to talk about the programs that we have for students who are maybe 2, 3, 4 years out from actually going to college. I am just completing my first cycle as a parent in this process, which is a whole nother level of connection. I am over here, like every 2 minutes, I'm like, Brianna, you have to remember as a parent. So I just feel extra connected to every single parent on this call. I'm like, I see you, I feel you, I know what it is And then I have, so Ali's starting college in September, and then I have Lauren in the class of 2029, as she reminded me yesterday. And and then I have Joshua in the class of 2031. So you know, summer is upon us, and it is a responsibility as parents for us to ensure that we help our children have I don't want to use the word productive, but that's actually what I mean. And that can take different forms, but that we appreciate that summer is actually an opportunity. And it's an opportunity that as parents, we need to leverage on behalf of our kids. And so I always feel like as a parent, I don't know if any parent in the chat would agree, but summer feels like it just literally comes on us so quickly. We're like, we blink and then it's summer and it's like, oh my gosh, what do we do with them? What are they doing for the summer? And so, right, Tamika is like, yep, I feel you. It's like, first it was New Year's and then it's summer and you're like, oh my God, the scramble to make sure, you know, that we have a plan, that we believe in, and that we feel confident. And so no parent is born a college advisor, okay? Or an educational planner. As parents, we have to occupy multiple different roles, but some of them we get absolutely no training for. We're our kids' drivers, but at least we had to do some training to get the driver's license, so we're pretty confident in doing that. But we have to serve so many other roles, and the role of educational advisor and university and career planner and all of that is a whole different, it's a whole nother ball game. And you know, we just want to make sure that today we leave you with more tools and more skills than you had before you joined us. And we're actually really happy to have that opportunity. And as a parent, I know that it can be really, really helpful. So please just be prepared to ask any questions that you might have. And again, welcome. We're happy to have you. So let's just jump right in. I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen. The little rules, there are no real rules, except that if you have questions, just put them in the Q&A. We'd love to answer them as we go along. My hope is that this is probably the most talking. I'll do a lot of talking, and Brianna will probably answer all the questions between Brianna and Dominique. So that's kind of how it's going to work. So we have the Q&A feature here. Any questions, please feel free to ask them. And without further ado, let's go ahead. Now, in thinking, let's keep it 100%. I've done a few of these webinars before. This must be like, this is like at least my 14 times 3. Dominique, you're the mathematician. Come on.
42, but where you get 14 from, or the 3 from?
Because aim is 14, Dominique.
Oh, right.
Come
but
on.
why times 3?
Because at least a minimum of 3 open houses a year. Minimum. I'm being conservative.
Oh, right. Oh, I was thinking like, you know, open house, orientation, you know. I thought you would have times it by a little bit more than 3.
All right, well, look, this is at least maybe my 55th open house. And at this point,
I can take that.
Thank you. And as a parent in the process, I think it's just so important to keep it real. I'm gonna keep it 500% real with you parents, and just let's start out by just, if you have no idea where to start, then this is a good session for you, because we start from scratch. Like, what do you think about first, etc., before we go into the predictions, etc. So I think I've welcomed you quite effectively. I've already introduced Brianna and Dominique. Sharika is here with us. Sharika is like the behind the scenes, between Sharika and Janelle, just behind the scenes, making everything happen. She is the program manager. She is on top of the SAT class. Dominique and her work quite closely together. We have a big tutor award ceremony tomorrow, and she's like in charge of that. So Sharika plays a really key role, and as an AIM parent, as an AIM student, you'll definitely hear from Sharika. All right, let's begin. What would I say is so important to start out with? I think it's really important for you to get to know your child. I mean, obviously you know them to an extent, but it's time for some different kind of conversations around the dining room table. I personally, I know this is not a parenting webinar at all, and I have learned so much from in-parents. You all probably have tips to give me. But I would definitely say that the dinner time conversation is where I certainly hear a lot of and get to know my kids a lot. And I hear, you know, a lot about what's going on. Between that and the drives to school are my two kind of touch points with my kids, because I'm a working mom. I'm trying to make things happen. I have my own goals. I'm doing multiple things. So, you know, I just carve out that time and really try to get to know them. And you know, especially if your kids are further out from the process, this is an ongoing kind of conversation. But it's so important for them to get clear about what they like and don't like, or what they don't know, what things are definite, what things are possibles. That's really important, because the more clarity you come into the process with, is the better it will be. Now, in our college advising program, part of our job is to help students to get that clarity and help them to get to know themselves and to challenge them. I see a parent in here who is a mom of an AIM early student. Her daughter is just in 3rd form, which is, you know, the American equivalent of grade 8, right? But I already am challenging her to imagine her ideal life. What does that look like? What are the things that would need to be included? What would make her genuinely happy? And I think that is important and very important these days. And it's really important, the things that make us human. Yeah, especially now and going forward, because we have AI doing the most. I saw a very disturbing clip of the first Neuralink user. Now, Neuralink is the chip in the brain. It sounds like, oh my gosh, fantasy world if you were talking 10 years ago, but no, it's reality. And he was actually able to move the mouse on the screen just by a thought with like the chip, and it was the Elon Musk thing. It was pretty wild. And I'm just saying, at this point, we have to help our kids zero in on the things that they can do that make them uniquely human. In other words, it's not just about like, oh, get an A in math. Although those things are really important. And yes, I didn't just single out math, it's because I'm looking at Dominique while I'm all on the math thing. But it's important for them to do well in school, but also for them to be able to think independently about themselves and what they like and what they don't like and what they might want to do and what problem in the world they might want to solve. And to be able to think critically and make decisions. That's a really, really key skill, and it will continue to be built, but it's important. So conversations about that. Parents, you have to know what your non-negotiables are as well. One of those things is budget. You know, that's a really important conversation to have. When Ali just entered the process, I was, you know, that's why I said to Jeffrey, what is the budget? He's like, well, we just need to wait and see. I said, no, sir. We will not wait and see anything. You have to go in knowing, like, what is your top number? And if, you know, and let me just keep it real, because that's the promise and that's the pledge. The higher that top number is the more options you're going to have. That's not surprising. That makes sense. But you do need to think like, what per year figure am I willing to spend? And anything above that, they have to stay locally. So for some of our US clients, that might mean community college. For some of our international parents, that's just like a US dollar figure above which they are unable or unwilling to go. Some parents are like, I will take out my retirement. And some parents are like, I will not take out my retirement. Okay, I'll leave you guys to guess which category I fell into. Now, you know, but it's important to know because it affects everything. Now, you also want to understand the point system. So just the simpler we can make this process, the better. Think of college as a point system, and basically you stack points. And the more points you have is the more of a probability that you'll get what you want out of this process. Less points you have is the less of a probability that you'll get what you want out of this process. So we're going to talk about the different things that give you points. But for example, a high GPA would give you some points. High SAT score gives you points. A hook gives you points. This is some unique value proposition. You know, a compelling application with strong essay, strong recommendation, more points. if you broke the swimming record and you're like the top swimmer in the Caribbean, points, which is also a hook. And so if you're a citizen of the country you're applying to, there goes some more points. If you don't need financial aid, more points. I think I sent out an email sort of to this effect, but that's how the point system works. So it's just really important to really have a sense of where do you stand? And as I said, citizenship relative to country, GPA scores, hook. Very important, parents, to know what's in your control and what's not in your control. The longer, the more out you are from the start of your child's college is the more things you have in your control. That's the more controllables you'll have. Non-controllables for a student that starts college in 2025, for example, there is not that much more control they can have over their GPA. It is more or less set. We are in June. That lower 6/grade 11 GPA is going to be published in a month or less, or American students are already out for break. They can't control their grade 11 GPA. That's done. Something they can control is their SAT score, because they have time, still have time to prep to up the score or to sit the SAT. So just to give you that example, building up a hook over a long-term period, you don't have control over that if you're in grade 11. You can put some icing on the cake. You can, do some things to, make it look better, but you can't just build a whole entire hook in whatever, 4 months, 6 months, and have it just be, something you build over time. But you do have this summer, which is still an opportunity to enhance the extracurricular. So so with your notebooks, which I asked you to get down, I really want you to make a note of what these things are for your child and for your situation, because these are the points. So citizenship relative to country, if you're a citizen of the country, great, more points. And then obviously GPA scores, hook, etc. I really want to talk about the time horizon. That's really important. We tend to we go into this process, obviously we're thinking about undergraduate. But I have students who want to go to medical school, for example. And that's a longer term sort of horizon for them to be thinking about if they want to do it in the US, for example. And that's a whole conversation. We have a pre-med boot camp, we have a pre-law boot camp, because I find that those two professions, those are things you want to get as clear on as possible before upper six, because there's so many decisions to be made that, affect that. But that there is the possibility of a master's, and depending on what your child wants to study, maybe the master's is absolutely necessary. And that, I certainly, as a parent, when we were looking at Ali's college plan, I was building out from a sort of longer term perspective, because, talking to her about the possibility of a master's and where that might happen and how to, build out an experience, an educational experience, because I really believe that education is so much about experience. Dominique, Brianna, I'm sure you would agree, that, a big part of going abroad to study is the experience. It just is. And so understanding too that even if you study at UE, study locally or study regionally, that you can have an international experience. You just have to be more deliberate about it. But UE has plenty agreements with universities across the US and Canada. They just signed another one. They seem to sign more and more every year. You could literally go to UE and spend 2 years at UE and 1 year in another country studying and build out an international experience at a fraction of the cost of, somewhere else. So there are options and there are options. And that's one of the very critical changes to the aim that is that we are helping students through our Caribbean Pathway program. Like if you want to study locally or regionally, or at least explore the options to study locally and regionally, that's something that we are prepared and happy to help you with. And there are scholarships available for those courses of study. Obviously, things like medicine and law, we highly recommend that students, study in the Caribbean. So, if there are questions about that, we can always talk about that. But we had a huge webinar with hundreds of kids and lots of doctors and lots of lawyers who talked about that and the pathways and the USMLEs and the foreign trained lawyer pathway. And at this point, we are age 14. So that means we have had our undergraduate students come back for us to help them with graduate school. We have helped kids go to law school in the UK and then do the foreign trained lawyer master's program in the US so that they can do the bar in the US. I mean, plenty of experience. And so we're just saying, you know, you want to think about the long-term horizon as you think about your child in relation to this process. So I think it's really important as parents, again, to think about clarity and overall goal. With kids, you know, listen, I'm turning 40 this year. I don't know. I feel like 100 years old. Not in terms of, I don't feel old, you know, Dominic, don't be so shocked. I don't feel old, but I just feel so much more like wise almost. And I hope I keep feeling like this. But the truth is, after 14 and a half years of helping students get into college and watching their lives unfold and watching them get married and start their own families, I haven't crossed the point where I have a child of an aimer coming to aim yet, but that's coming up shortly down the pipe. But you know, again, what's the overall goal? Our overall goal as parents is to raise children who can, you know, thrive in the world on their own, get off the payroll, and have successful and happy, fulfilled lives. That's our overall goal. This is a very important part of the process, but I just find it's really good as a parent to remember what the overall goal is, because this college admissions process is a little bit wild, especially if you're applying to the US. It's a bit crazy these days. And so I think the context and that grounding of what is the overall goal here? What are we trying to do here? Is really important. And then on top of that is, as a parent now, what are you willing to do / invest to make that happen? And so for me, you know, as a parent, it's like, I want you to have the best chance at whatever you want to do. I want you to have as much clarity as possible on whatever you want to do, while there's still room for you to change your mind because you're only 17, 18, right? Which is fine. And then as a parent, what am I willing to do to facilitate that? I already know as a parent, well, I'm a recovering DIYer, okay? I am the DIY queen, but I've learned that some things are just too risky to DIY and end up costing me more money in the long run. So I don't run those jokes. Okay, so even with Ali, I made sure Ali was being tutored by Dominique. Yes, yes, of course I have to pay Dominique, right? Not because she's coming to game. Dominique still has to get paid. And I invested that because, again, I wanted her to just have the best and have the widest range of options. Brianna was her counselor. Again, I have knowledge. I think I have a lot of knowledge, but you know, I get like there's, you know, coming from your stepmom who, you know, you hear talk all the time is very different from hearing from Brianna. And again, I just wanted to make sure that in going through this process, she had her best shot. That was important for me. So even though I love to DIY, I knew that this was not something I would want to DIY if I could help it. And you just being here as a parent at this webinar is important because you're getting the knowledge firsthand. Whereas, you know, there are a lot of times when parents fall into traps of listening to the cousin, aunt, uncle, friend who had a son that did this or a daughter that did that. And it's just, I mean, there's so much nuance. There's so much that you don't know that that feels a little dangerous. So I'm happy that you're here and that we can share this information. But you have to get ready as a parent. What are you willing to do / invest? Are you going to get a professional on board? Of course, we highly recommend and we highly recommend ourselves. But, you know, like things like application fees. Are you aware that it costs $100 per application fee? I see parents dump money every single year applying to 10 schools that will never give them financial aid. You just wasted $1,000. With $1,000, you could have done whatever, how many ever consults. You could have done, you could have made a professional give you advice. You could have put that toward a college advising program. you know, and then dealing with the whole emotion and the whole disappointment of when you tried to DIY, but then you didn't realize X, Y, and Z. It's a lot. I mean, for us as professionals who are in this work every single day, it's a lot for us. I'm like, Brianna, did you realize that college changed that policy and now they're asking for this? And we didn't know that they needed that. And then we have to call, and then we have to, I have to be WhatsApping, my friend in the admissions office. We have to be traveling to maintain these relationships. I'm just saying, as parent to parent, it is a lot. As Tamika said, you're watching social media videos, researching online, and you become so overwhelmed. It's completely overwhelming. And I'm not saying that because I just want you to pay in. I'm just telling you that as a parent, like, it is overwhelming. The amount of different information, and then how do you know what actually applies to your child? It's a lot. And really and truly, just genuinely and authentically, if you can humanly help it, it's not the thing you want to DIY. No, there is a part where DIY is fine. And I made some videos on this. I'm like, do I have the courage to post these? I think I do. Where it's like, to DIY or not to DIY. You want me to tell you when you can DIY? When your child is very clear about what they want to study, where they want to study it, you look at their GPA and their SAT score, and it's much higher than the typical student admitted to the school they want to go to. So you know they're not in a competitive situation. And guess what? You are going to stroke the check. You're going to take out the checkbook and you're going to write 75,000 or 80,000 or 60,000 or whatever the school costs. And, if you get scholarships, great, because we all want scholarships. But if you don't, it's fine. They're going to go to that school. In that case, you can DIY it, right? I mean, maybe you get somebody to just review it and you can DIY. But I'm telling you, if you find yourself in any other situation where even if you are paying in full, just to sit through the 5,000 different college options and figure out, okay, what might be the best fit here? Because you want your child to be happy and you want them to thrive. And let me tell you something, don't underestimate the importance of your child being happy where they are. If you can make that a reality, you really try to. Now, you might have constrictions and so on, or constraints like budget, etc. You do the best within the constraints. You know what I mean? Most of us have budgetary, like, as Ali, this is it. So, like, we need to figure it out in this budget. And then, that child would need to know what they need to do. Because sometimes them in SAT class wasting time, like, them don't realize that having the latest iPhone is not the same thing as your parent being able to pay $80,000 a year. Okay, so they also need to know how serious they need to be in this process and what their own responsibilities are. So anyways, quickly, the two-step AIM two-step process system, very easy to understand. It's very simply high scores. So you want to have the stats, the numbers, very important. And then a compelling application. You combine those two and you direct them to the best fit schools, and that's the real recipe for success in the process. Now, obviously, you can break down those things further, and Dominique is here, so she's going to break down the high scores and tell you how the system within the SAT class works and what's most important for your child to be doing. But that's just an overview of what it sort of takes and what's most important there. So 2024 trends, which is why you are here, the SAT. What we saw this year was more schools reintroducing the SAT, making the SAT mandatory. And then we, in terms of feedback and what we saw, was schools really saying, look, okay, we say test optional, and we are test optional. But if a student submits a high SAT score, it's like garnish on a dish. And I meant to put a picture of garnish on this slide and I totally forgot. But you know how garnish on a meal is like, oh, this is attractive. If you have 2 plates of chicken and rice and one have on some fancy little garnish, right? Like a little, dash of maybe balsamic vinaigrette, in that little pattern, and you have the little, maybe the carrot cut like a rose, and you're like, oh my gosh, what's this? You're gonna choose the plate with the better garnish if the quantities are the same, like it's the same chicken breast, same 2 scoops of rice. And so one has the garnish, one doesn't, you're gonna go for the one with the garnish. So that's the way that a lot of the test optional schools are putting it. No, if the school is now also competitive, or your child, sometimes the school not that competitive, but your child is in a competitive situation. So for example, let's say the school has a 40% admit rate. That's not that competitive. And you look at the child's scores and you think, it's my child should be able to get into this sport. Listen, getting in and getting money is two different conversations. If you're international and the school has a quota, that 40% don't apply to you. So I think that's where parents get lost. Sometimes they're reading the website and they're not realizing that all of this is nuance and all of this depends. Everything is, it depends. Because I have had schools with a 20% admit rate tell me that the admit rate for international students who need aid was 3%. There's a big difference between a 20% admit rate and a 3% admit rate. But that's literally what can be going on behind the scenes, depending on where you find yourself. So our rule of thumb is put yourself in the best position. Be the garnish. Like, show them the garnish, just like we need the best plate. Decorate it, make it look awesome. Make it be that when they look at you and another candidate, they can't help but gravitate to you and choose you and give you money. And so Dominique, would you like to go ahead and talk a little bit about the SAT? And there are two questions that I would love for you and Brianna to also look at.
Okay, so hello everyone, welcome to Open House. This is always my favorite webinar that we have. I'm a little bit biased because I found AIM from our open house. So I always like greeting the people that I knew I was in the audience one time. So hello everyone, I'm very happy to have you guys here. So let me tell you a bit about the SAT and the change that has happened. So if it was that you had an older sibling that might have done, or older cousin or family member that might have done the SAT when it was a paper and pencil exam, it is now very different. So the SAT is completely digital. You're going to be doing it on your laptop, on your iPad, whatever eligible device it is. And it only has two sections, a math section and an English section. Now, your English section has two modules, each of which have, I believe it's 27 questions that are going to be answered in 32 minutes. And then your math section is going to have 22 questions each in each module, and then that's going to be answered over a total of 35 minutes. So the SAT is very different from before because now it is adaptive. So what that means is that you're going to have a part of the exam, you're going to do the first module, and depending on how well you do in that first module, it will then populate the questions you get in the second module. The reason for that, it might sound like, oh my goodness, why would they ever do that? But it's really to help the students. So if it is that the students are really struggling in that first section, we don't want to, pose some of the hardest questions possible at them in the second module, and then they get really distressed and, riot and never take the SAT again, and believe that they can't go to college and all of these things. So we want to pose questions that can really zero in on the kind of score that they should get in that kind of mixed bag, kind of zero in on that score. So it is very important for you to make sure that even the questions may seem really easy. Let me just run through this question. Pay attention to those questions at the very beginning of the SAT exam that may feel very easy, but they are what's helping the SAT to really populate that second module of the exam. So that's kind of the new structure of the exam. It's the content-wise, it's the same for math. For English, the only thing that has changed from before to now is that you have little blurbs of a passage, and they're going to ask you one or two questions based on this blurb. Instead of before, you used to have a really long passage, and then they will ask you anywhere between, I believe it was 8 to 12 questions per passage. So now it's a short passage, one or two questions, short passage, one or two questions. Keep it moving as quickly as possible. So that's kind of the general overview of the exam and what it looks like nowadays. And so Nicole has quite nicely asked, posed the questions for us. So when should you take the SAT? When should your child take the SAT? The thing that we recommend is that they take it in the summer after they leave fifth form or 10th grade. So the reason for that is they would have in the US usually completed up
US
to
10th
algebra
grade,
2.
US 10th
US
grade.
10th grade, yeah. US 10th grade or Caribbean fifth form. So the reason for that is in the US, they would have completed algebra 2, the majority of the English classes that they would need to really feel prepared for the SAT. What the worst thing that we want them to do is feel that they have absolutely no knowledge when they're coming to the SAT. What the classes are really made for is, yes, to teach some information that we know that they're never going to learn. Some things on the SAT they're going to learn like right before they graduate. So some things they're never going to learn, and we do make sure that we focus on some of that information. But we also want to make sure that we're fine-tuning their information from class and making it so that they really understand how they can apply that knowledge to the SAT, how they can answer these questions, and how they can answer these questions quickly too for the exam. So yes, after 10th grade, the summer after 10th grade, and fifth form in the Caribbean. How many times can you take the SAT? Multiple times, and we highly recommend that you take it multiple times. We recommend 2 to 3 times, never one time. Here's my greatest analogy for never one time. If you have a child, which I'm assuming you do, since you're in this room, and you put them on a bicycle for the first time, and you say, okay, ride down the hill. You're never going to expect them to ride down the hill perfectly the first time around. And that's exactly what's happening with the SAT. Yes, we give them all these mock exams, but what we realize is it's their first time doing this thing. So we don't expect any kind of great perfection out of them the first time around. And what ends up happening is even with a bit more prep afterwards, just having the information of being in the room before is enough to help them when they're taking the exam again. So we recommend highly to take the exam again, because when you have that second score, not only are you more comfortable with the exam that second time around, but now you have the opportunity to super score. And what super scoring is you're able to take your highest math score and your highest English score, add those together and get a super score out of that. So let's say in the first exam, English was first and you really weren't settled down and you just really didn't do very well on that first English section. And so your math score ended up being right on your goal. So the next time around, you say, you know what, I really want to get a really good English score. I really want to settle down properly at the start of my exam and really get a score that I really want. And the next time around, you end up getting the perfect English score, your goal, above your goal, amazing. So now you get this really good English score, and you had this great math score from the first goal, from the first sitting, and you're able to put those two together and have your perfect goal score. So that is what the SAT allows for. And most, if not all, colleges are going to accept that super score as long as you send in all of your scores together. So please do the exam more than once. You're definitely going to need it. It's very few people are one and dones with this exam. And it just gives you less pressure if you're able to say, yes, this is my first time and I'm going to be able to take it another time afterwards. Are there any accommodations for students with disabilities? Yes. If you do have a disability, please apply to the College Board. So what you'll do is you'll speak with your guidance counselor. They'll help you to prepare all of that documentation, and then you're able to apply to the SAT, to the College Board, for those accommodations to help you with the exam as well. Okay, so I think I have some questions here.
Can I jump in?
Sure, please go ahead.
Well, okay, maybe we should finish. Well, you did all of that. Are there accommodations for students with disabilities? Yes, if you have like learning differences, ADHD, processing speed diagnosed by educational psychologists, you can send in that report to College Board and they'll give you accommodations like time and a half. So we have had students who, you know, are doing extra time, are doing the SAT with extra time, and we also give them the mock exam with extra time so that they can prepare accordingly. And then thoughts on taking the PSAT. We are big fans of the PSAT. We believe in the PSAT. Thank you so much so that we teach the PSAT. So we had an entire cohort of kids who went through our PSAT course with us. And again, this is not, the PSAT is the pre-SAT. Now, if you're a US citizen and you score high enough, you can become a National Merit Scholarship finalist, and it can help you to get money for college. So that's the official use. Now, most of the kids who do PSAT with us are not doing it for that purpose. They're doing it to start to build early test-taking skills. Because sometimes, you know, it depends on the child. You just have to really know your child, and you can only really know by giving them a mock exam, because you can't know by like grades in school or CSEC or any of those things how your child is going to perform in a standardized test. So I will just say it. I mean, Annie is a one student. She got all ones for CAPE. She's very good. She can do exams, right? But she didn't like just get the SAT. Like she had to dig in. She and Dominique worked together for about 1 year. I'm being serious. 4 different SATs, and eventually a score movement of over 400 points. That's because girl needed a scholarship. And I said, well, if you want a scholarship, but you have to put in the work. You understand? And SAT wasn't something that came to her naturally. I said, I pay for tutoring till a week out, right? I'm like, wait, is this tutoring going to stop? But you know, so no, I tell you, I can appreciate a parent's perspective so much, because you're like, this what again? But yes, because when it's $80,000 on the line, I will spend $2,000 on tutoring. When it's $80,000 on the line and $90,000, even $100,000 per year on the line, which is what? 360 to 400,000 US over the course of 4 years on the line. I will spend the money on the SAT class. She did the class. She did one-on-one tutoring. She did the most one-on-one tutoring in the class, and then of course the one-on-one college advising. I did the investment because I know what college costs and I know what this translates to. So, you know, the truth is that this is a journey, and you just have to psychologically prepare yourself as a parent. That's why one of the first questions on the slide I ask is, what are you willing to do and what are you not willing to do? Just because it's too painful if you keep thinking of it incrementally, like Jesus got another bit. Like, just make up your mind from now, and no set the application them alone are gonna cost $1,000 US. I know that the college advising platinum program is $5,000, but this is going to cover all the assets, all the apps, having somebody on call, WhatsApp group. I don't have to worry. I have somebody to hold my hand. I know I'm doing my best as a parent, and I can focus on making money and doing what I do so that they have the support. And we as a family have the support, because it doesn't mean that you pay this money and then you disappear as a parent. You still have to play a role, right? But at least that role is supported and you have clarity at each stage of the process. So it really depends on your child. You know, we have some kids in the program who they crank out that college essay write grammar in no time, because they're strong writers and they know themselves very well, and they can talk about themselves easily, and these things come naturally. Some others, it takes multiple different drafts, hours and hours and hours. That's just the nature of the beast. I've had students come in, they do the test one time, lick out 1,500, and then they're like, oh, I just need to up 50 points. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, do what you need to do. I'm like, bless your heart. It doesn't mean anything though. You know what I mean? That's just your thing. Okay, fine. It don't mean that like you will be more successful in life than Ali potentially or than anybody else. You just know how to take these tests really well and you respond to them really well. It is what it is. This is just a means to an end, my friends. Like literally, it's not no deep philosophical thing. It's just a means to an end. How can we get to the highest score? And so you take it multiple times and you super score. And depending on the nature of your child and how they come in on the diagnostic, it depends. That will show you how much work there is to be done. If your child comes in at under 1,000, there is a lot of work to be done, my friends. If the diagnostic score is under 1,000, just make up your mind. You're in this for the long haul.
Let me jump back to that answer some more of the question. So someone did mention that some high schools are doing Algebra 2 later, and that's understandable. What I would recommend is that you make sure that you're, investing early in some of those Algebra 2 classes from now. You don't need the entirety of Algebra 2. What I would say is semester 1 then you're good. Because you just need like parabolas, circles, all that like general first stuff, not like hyperbolas and those stuff that you learn afterwards. In fourth form, for you to say the SATs this summer, no, not recommended. And I can tell you, not recommended as someone that tried that.
Yeah, well,
as
Dominique
someone,
was going to college at the end of fifth form, and we had to disabuse her of that notion.
yes.
Fairly quickly. We're like, that's not what you're doing, because you want a full scholarship, you have a lot of potential. And if you try it right after fifth form, you're not going to be as competitive as kids who have CAPE results to show. You just won't be. It's just a fact.
I'm really happy for that initial. A wake-up call is very helpful. So no, I wouldn't recommend it.
But you can do PSAT.
You have
There are
time,
other
yeah,
things,
and
and there are other things to be done. So we're talking about the SAT because that's where we start. But we have AIM early programs where we're helping kids. You know what, Brianna, why don't we talk a little bit about AIM early? Since you deliver it.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm happy to touch base on AIM early. It is an introductory component, or can be, to our CAP program, which is our college advising program. And in AIM early, we have students who are essentially working a lot earlier just to make sure that they're following the steps, strengthening the extracurricular profile, taking the right classes, and aligning themselves ultimately towards what they want to do once they graduate high school. So we work on, getting the early test scores. We work on some productivity coaching. We go through different options with students, from the Caribbean Pathway program to internationally, what that would look like. Just an overall assessment of profile, an overall assessment to build a profile and ultimately get the results that students want once they graduate high school.
Thank you for that, Brianna. And overall, the goal is, again, we're just trying to help kids get prepared to be successful in life. So I think those productivity and self-management skills are really, really important. Advocacy, exploring different internship opportunities, helping them to have really useful summers, and that every step of the game is deliberate and intentional, and they're getting to know themselves, and they're and
a lot of it is really thinking through different options, because students will have, and of course, multiple things that they're interested in. And we don't believe in, you're going to pick something now and do it for the rest of your life. We believe in what do you want to do next, right? And kind of seeing where that takes you. And we have students who are weighing, acting and law. How can I combine them? How can I do both at the same time? How can I be in both of those fields? And we're saying, okay, well, you can do this summer program and that can take you there. And then after you do that year, then law school can start here. And while you're at law school, there's this collective that we found for you that you can. So it's a lot of thinking through of the practicalities of how can I pursue all that I'm interested in and see where it goes, essentially. Because then only through experience can the student really decide, I like this, I don't like this, I want to do more of this and less of this. I think that's really important.
Exposing them to those possibilities. I love what Brianna said there about, like, how can you do both? Like, just making them know that there are ways to explore things. You don't have to just do or be one thing, and you can get creative to think about how you can develop and use multiple skills. And again, this is part of what it means to be human, because the straight predictable road is soon going to be obsolete in many ways, and you need to get creative about how you use different skills together, and interdisciplinary skills are more and more important. So I think that it is just excellent preparation to be successful in life, no matter where the student goes. So, whether that is UWI or UWI Mona, UWI Kevin, UWI St. Augustine, or, China or Cuba, or, South America, US, Canada, UK, etc. Wherever they go, are they going to be prepared to be successful and to find their way? And that is very important to us. So that's a big key throughout all our programs. So the other question, we had a few questions that we've already answered in the chat. I think one that's Dominique touched on, which is so important, is when do we start? When do we start? So our programs start in grade 8. Aim Early starts in grade 8. We have students in grade 8. We have students in grade 9. And then in grade 10 is where Aim Early starts to peter off, and they start to get, you know, Aim College Advising now. Like, this is, you're no longer early. We are just aiming at this point. And they transition into the more college prep aspect, but it still has, you know, elements of career preparation and elements of productivity and self-management skills, but then also obviously, you know, dealing with, okay, college. Do we help kids go to Canada? Absolutely. And the good news, one of the trends that we need to speak about right now is that Canada is offering more and more money than they ever have in life. Like, every time I talk to a Canadian university, they're like, oh yeah, we're expanding our money for international students, which is like, praise God, because, you know, our friends in the United States are, you know, doing the opposite. So we appreciate when universities are offering more financial aid. So Canada is absolutely something that we do. Brianna has also worked with many students who are Canadian bound. The process is simpler, but you still have to find the money and then still be a compelling candidate for the scholarship. So that's where it starts to resemble the US process in terms of requirements when you need those scholarships.
It's a very different process for Canadian citizens and for international students. So
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you for pointing that out. And
there's a really good question that I want to answer out loud. I did answer it in the chat, but I think it's like essential. So I mentioned super scoring before, and someone said, I'm in lower 6 right now or 11th grade. Is there still an opportunity for me to super score? And the answer is yes. Or somebody in the chat also asked, how late is too late? So a couple answers to that. So the SAT is offered in August, October, November, December, March, and May. It's never been offered this often internationally since 2016. So because of the digital exam, it's offered so much more often. Now, because of this, you have so much more opportunities to super score. If it is that you're sending in your application by around mid-October, you do have 2 sittings for you to be able to super score. You can take the first sitting in August and then your next sitting in October, and you have about 6 weeks between the sittings for you to prep, you know, feel it out again, and then take the exam. So you have a lot of opportunities. Even now, it isn't too late if you think you're in this position of being too late at this moment.
Thank you for that, Dominique. There is also another question I wanted to answer out loud, which was someone asking, my daughter's in grade 10, what do I need to do to get started? I'm not fully up to date with all this info, but I'm getting there. I think that the next step, and anybody who is, you know, on this call who's like, okay, what do we do to really, yes, you're giving us all this information in open house, and, you know, obviously we're gonna know a lot more than we did before we came here, but how does it apply to my child? This is where you would want to do an initial consultation. And during that 1 hour, and the report you get after will outline, you know, personalized next steps, recommendations, things to look out for. If you've already done an initial consultation, it's time for you to enroll in a program with us. So that would be either Aim Early if your child is in grade, going into grade 8 to 10, going into grade 8 to 10. And if they're going into grade 11, or even 12 at this point, then we can do the college advising program. When they're midway through grade 10, we start to transition them to our college advising program. So that would be your next steps. And of course, the SAT class, which we have one that starts in a couple of days in June. at the end of June 2016, I want to say. And that's gonna prep kids for the August SAT. That is, if you are in the class of 2025, you better be doing that sitting, because other than that, it's October, and then you're gonna start missing out early deadlines, early scholarship deadlines, and you do not want to do that, okay? Because again, remember we talked about super scoring. You need to be in the June class. You need to be in the June class. I don't know how else to say that. But yes, you can really start that. CAPE Unit 2 is absolutely necessary, absolutely necessary. And if you're about to complete lower 6, as I said, that means you're starting college in 2025. You want to do the June class to sit the SAT in August. That's not too late. But you could sit it in August, you could resit it in October and still send an update of your SAT to schools where at least you could still apply early. And that's one of the other trends we need to speak about, is the fact that early numbers were up this year and they're going to continue to go up, but that's not the key. The key is that colleges are filling more of their classes early than ever before. So you could have maybe 5,000 kids apply to a given university early, and that school takes 50% of, like, uses those apps to fill up 50% of the available spaces. That means going into the regular January 1st deadline, there could be like 30,000 people applying for the rest of the rest of the spaces in the class, the other 50%. So if you look at it, you would want to be in the smaller pool. And by the time you apply regular, sometimes things like money is finished, and you know, it's just much harder. So if humanly possible and you have the profile to do so, you're going to want to apply it early. That's a trend that we expect. We are here for 2026 prediction, where we predict that the number of slots filled in the early pool will continue to rise, because college is a business and they are trying to operate off certainty, right? They want to be sure. They want to get the kids in early so they can, be more able to predict, how many kids are coming. They can predict their money. It's a business, and the earlier they get the business done and confirm these students, the better. So early is going to continue. You need to have October 15th in mind as a deadline. You just need to put it in your head. And if anything is missing or they need anything, at least they have some time to interact with you. I have some students who, obviously against our advice, were in very tight positions because they waited too close to a deadline to submit. And when they needed to submit additional things, random school want evaluation of transcript when they never used to ask for that. All these different things. Oh no, we want you to send us this extra thing, and there's no time for that. They're just gonna get rid of you. It's like they have tons of apps, okay? So it's nothing for them to get rid of you. I want to speak to another trend, affirmative action. Affirmative action rolled out this year. Some colleges told us they weren't even able to write the word diversity anywhere in reviewing student files. It was very serious, okay? And so, affirmative action means they can't use race in the process. And I saw a question here saying, I'm in the US, do you offer services to individuals outside of Jamaica? We always have, since the start of AIM. AIM started three students, 2 of which were boarding school students in England. So I was doing, I don't think it was Zoom, it was Skype. I was doing Skype sessions from the day AIM started, and we do continue. It's AIM Online Academy now. And so we do continue to work with students all over the world. But the point is that affirmative action was repealed. No, there's this saying that whenever there's something goes wrong, there's a flip side to it. Like somebody always wins. The game has to be equalized. And so for affirmative action, the big opportunity created that is going to be more important next year than ever, alert 2026 prediction, is that they can't use race as a measure of diversity or like at all in the admissions process. But what they can do is favor students with other indicators of diversity other than race, like international background and international experience. And so, we have kids who are diaspora kids, parents are Jamaican, or maybe grandparents are Jamaican or from the Caribbean or from wherever. And then we have these kids who are in boarding schools in the US, and we're like, look, you have to Jamaica-fy or Caribbean-fy or whatever internationalize your experience as much as possible. Show that you're still connected to this country. This year, we organized like a joint project between a student who was in the US and a student who was in Jamaica, and then that showed that connection is still there. There are different summer things that students can come back to their, you know, the country of their, you know, long-time origin and really show that international aspect. You have a student at boarding school, make sure them is the president of the international club. You know, make that diversity actually work. We have a student in Jamaica, is one of Brianna's students, I forget which, she's originally from an African country, I cannot remember which one, but the point is, I was like, oh, that's great. What has she done to share that culture in her Jamaican high school? Because it's not just about being able to tick a box and say, oh yeah, I'm Ethiopian. How has that affected your community? Like, how have other people benefited from the fact that you're Ethiopian? Do you organize cultural exchange? Do you, you know, educate them about the culture? Do you like have a international food fair? Real life case, a boarding school student, we helped to organize a whole international food. Everybody cooked food from their country and it was amazing. These are the kind of things colleges like, because when they see you do that, they're like, oh, you're gonna come to my school and do that. And then that way the diversity works. So that is the prediction. And that is just a piece of free advice that you can definitely leverage in this process. So SAT, we talked about affirmative action. You know, I love to deliver on my promises, right? And last but certainly not least, let's talk about the money, okay? 14.5 years of doing financial aid forms and helping parents with financial aid. The number one question I get, anybody want to guess in the chat? What is the number one financial aid question I get? Dominique, you want to take a stab at it? Brianna, want to take a stab at it? What is the number one? What is the most frequently asked question of Nicole Campbell when it comes to financial aid? What do parents always want to know?
I would say, how do I find scholarships?
No.
Yeah. No full scholarships, no.
No. How can my child go to college for free? Love that.
Oh yes.
But no.
Yeah. That was my other guess.
Yeah, that was my question.
Anybody else? Thank you, Christine, for taking a yes. Loved that. Anybody else want to take a stab at it? And by the way, I have to give this caveat. This is international parents. Non-US parents ask this. US parents can't ask this because it just doesn't apply to them. That's a clue. All right. I am not going to. Carrie says, hi. I know Carrie for a long time. All right. What is the average cost of college that I need to budget for? That's a good one. You're getting close. Carrie, that answer is warm. Things are heating up over here, Carrie. Average cost of college, Sash. I like that one, but not really. We can answer those though. Very good questions. Average cost of college depends. Private versus public. There's such huge range. The cheapest private college all costs is Flagler, which is maybe about 30 grand by now, no scholarship. And then the most expensive ones are like Columbia, NYU, etc., which is Columbia is $101,000 cost of attendance per year. Okay, I saw that this year. The student who got a scholarship offer from there though got so much money she was in credit by the end of, like, they were paying her to come there. So they also give great money, but you have to be of a certain income point, which we'll talk about. Can my child get financial aid? Not really. Let me just tell you, but I appreciate the guesses because it tells me what else to talk about. So thank you. They want to know. And this is only a question an international parent could ask because they don't have to deal with the IRS, my friends. So international parents always want to know, how much money should we put down that we can afford to pay? Because you know, on the financial aid form, they said, what is the maximum you can afford to pay for your child for college? Carrie said she was going to ask that one, yes. I'm sorry. No, I said, remember my pledge here, you guys, was to keep it 150% real on this call. So that is what parents ask, like, what do we need to put down? Because, you know, you don't want to put down too much and then them say pay it. And then you don't want to put down too little and then them don't accept your child. So what are we writing down here? Like, what do we do? And here's what I would say. You see, All right. Colleges now are very price sensitive when it comes to international students. And the best bet for you and your child normally is to really actually put down, I know this sounds crazy, but put down the amount that you are actually willing to pay. Sometimes they don't even let you pay. Sometimes they'll give you more money than you think and you don't have to pay that. But to be on the safer side, you want to really think about that figure above which you don't want to go, and put that figure. Don't put a figure down there that you are not comfortable paying, but don't put something that's so low that if your child doesn't get in, you're gonna say, oh my God, if only I had put $10,000 more. I could have more than put $10,000 more, but I never put it because X, Y, and Z. Okay. And this goes for international students because international parents, because there's no way to really track your income if you're an international parent. They just have to kind of take whatever you say. So one, they inflate your numbers. So if you tell them that your electricity and your expenses and whatever, they will inflate the figure. They will say they're probably underestimating it. We're gonna inflate it because there's no IRS and there's no way to track. So Carisha said, give us an example. I love examples. Most colleges, if you can afford to pay $30,000 a year, then they are willing to negotiate with you. They're willing to meet you somewhere. They're willing to say, okay, well, here, we'll give you the rest, because at least we know we can collect 30 grand, right? There are some schools that will say, hey, I see that you want to come to my school and you don't have any money. If you find some money, we'll admit you.
It's not just us. Tulane does that too.
Okay, Tulane did that this year. Okay, fine. Not just you, Miami. Okay, so some schools are just like, listen, we saw your money, but we can't afford your child. So if you find some more money, let us know, and that child will be admitted. But they won't admit your child. And then some of them, if they see that you don't have enough money, they'll just reject your child flat out. And so this is nothing for children to take personally. This is just financial. Like they will just look and say, we're not going to meet this budget. That child is too expensive. I don't think international parents understand the massive reallocation of funds away from international students to low-income domestic US students. It's because of the Black Lives movement. It's Black Lives Matter movement. It's because of the socio-economic equality movement. It's the political, it's the debt crisis that students in the US are in. It's a huge issue. And so international student, financially, it is the lowest it's ever been in my 14.5 years of doing this work. And that's just a fact. Now, if you're a domestic student, like if you have a green card or a US passport, they will not admit you on money. They would rather give you a loan. They will say, well, this is the grant, make it happen. But they're not going to reject you. International students will get rejected because they know you can't take out a US loan to pay them. So they're like, oh, there's no way for them to pay us. Why should we accept them? They're not going to accept you and say, oh, find the money. You know why? Because you're going to lower their yield. And yield affects their rankings. And rankings affect their bond price, their ability to raise debt, their ability to get donations from alumni, their prestige, their value as a brand. Guys, this is a business proposition. Can I tell you? So if they see that you don't have the money, they will rather reject you than you reject them. They admit you. Where are you going to find the 70 grand? You're going to try and go around and do GoFundMe or try and find these scholarships online. They don't exist. Every single year, I have students who come and parents after the fact. You don't look for scholarships after the fact. You look for scholarships before the fact. By the time you get into the school and don't get money, all the scholarship opportunity them close. You're in a gap year situation at this point. So do not think about money after admission. Money needs to be thought about before admission. So if there are plethora of scholarships if you are a low-income US student, whole heap of scholarships, institutional scholarships, non-institutional scholarships. Worse if you're black low-income, enough scholarships out there, right? Woman interested in engineering or STEM, plenty scholarships out there, but not after the fact. You don't apply and then look for scholarships. You look for scholarships and apply in the same cycle. For middle income parents, I'm gonna tell you, it's a hard road. It's like you're making enough money to live nice, to live good, but you don't want to take out 100,000 and give a college per year and mash up your life. No, but if you make under $100,000 a year gross income, colleges will normally give you a full ride. Need-based, you qualify for everything. But the minute you start to make gross income of all people in the house too much over 100, they think you can afford to pay them 100. Does it make sense? The math doesn't math. It doesn't make sense. But yet this is the formula. The financial aid formula is the hardest on middle income parents. If your income is under 100,000 combined gross, you're gone clear. If it's over like whatever, if you can afford to cut the check, you cut the check, it doesn't matter. But if you're sort of in the middle, that's where it gets tricky. So that we saw that again this year. Trend. Prediction is gonna continue. Strategy, look for merit scholarships. No, this is where you and your child need to just get on the same page. Would you have something to add, Brianna?
It's just to mention that we're very realistic, and that's why we're stressing our initial consultations as well, because it's really an individual case-by-case basis as it relates to the finances. And we're very realistic with parents where we'll say, you know, you can do 2 years at this community college and there's this specific scholarship for this specific state, for this, for, you know, and it gets very technical. So there's only so much that can generally
Where'd she go?
I tell you, bad Brian, you know.
Well, so, I'm so glad that Brianna interjected to say, like, book at initial to find out, like, how does it apply to you and your child? Because again, I'm being general. I'm being general, but of course, please book at initial to find out, you know, where does your child fall in all of this? But just try to keep in mind the schools that everybody is chasing down are not the schools that are going to be anxious in all cases to give a whole heap of merit money or a lot of money generally, unless your child is in the top 1% of their pool. So this is where you also are looking at what is my child's profile on the real relative to this school. So like I had a lot of kids this year wanting to go to UMiami. Lots of them want, like, that's the hottest. UMiami's.
It's great to be a Miami Hurricane. What can I say? What can I say?
This is what happened. There's an influencer called Alex Earl. Y'all, I promise to keep it real. There's an influencer called Alex Earl. This is how crazy the world has gotten. And I know I sound like a 40-year-old, but I am a 40-year-old, okay? The influencer went viral with her UMiami Country Club posts. And now every kid want to go to UMiami. UMiami applications are through the roof. Picnic them say, we would like to live good life. What is this? And then UMiami build this new dorm. I had a student who was fixing. He wanted to go to Columbia University. We were lining up everything. He's at AIM early. So he's with us since grade 9. We're like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. Columbia, here we go. He comes in and says, I don't want to go to Columbia anymore. I want to go to UM. I'm like, Columbia? Okay, talk to me more about that, because I'm experienced enough to know that I'm not obsessed with school name. Like that's just like a very immature approach in my view, because I've seen enough students to know that you obsess yourself with name. That does not mean success in life. It just doesn't. I went to Princeton and I love Princeton, and we have students going to Ivy Leagues every single year. That's fine, but that's not, you don't just say, I want to go there, just name that and think that, okay, well, you know, this means anything. So anyways, he said, I want to go to UM. I'm like, why? Have you seen the new dorm? I'm like, what? So he sends me this Instagram post of like the new build out. The place look, I ain't gonna lie. I couldn't even, I had to keep a straight face because in my mind, I'm like, well,
it's an overall trend though in colleges. I was having this conversation with
It
a
is.
president of a school the other day where we're seeing a lot of the prices are going up, but so are the facilities, and people are like, I had a student who she didn't want to go to any schools where she had to share a bathroom her freshman year. And I was just like, this cannot be real life. This is not the criteria that we're going off of right now. But students are really invested in the dorms and the views. I visited a school the other day where the seniors have balcony, like apartment style rooms off of a river, you know? So they're just students want the Florida, Miami, the nice, to live in college how they, you know, would like to right off the bat. So it's definitely a trend.
Yes, well, I can't wrong them because mental health and happiness is important, and UM is a great school. So if you can go to a great school, for your major, the student is interested in like econ and business, and then also be happy and warm. I had seasonal depression that I didn't even realize was weather related when I was in university. I spent 6 years on the East Coast, and that was not easy. It was not easy. So when students said I really can't manage the cold, I take them seriously. And you know, I'm getting prompts from Sharika is losing her mind, like, you have not told people how to sign up for the SAT. What are you doing? Dominique, can you send that out to everyone as a panelist? Because I'm trying to copy and paste and it's not working on my screen.
Only
So
you can, everyone.
So just to recap, financial aid for middle income families is tougher than ever. You will need to definitely be looking at merit money depending on what your budget is. And then for international students, money is tighter than it's ever been. You will definitely want to be developing that hook, getting the highest SAT score possible, hiring an expert. This is, if it wasn't worth the investment before this year, it is certainly worth the investment this year. It's not something you want to kind of, you know, DIY because the stakes are so high and it's such a competitive situation. SAT, more schools made it mandatory than ever before, and the schools are using it as garnish. In a competitive situation, you need a high SAT score. Don't follow the website about test optional. And then 3, affirmative action repeal has opened up more opportunities for students who can leverage an international background and international experience that is really connected to their unique story. So I have boarding school students like, we're going to go to like, I forget, like some random country in, you know, that they have no connection to and do community service. I'm like, spare me, please. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody cares. Oh, sorry. I'm just keeping it real. But if you come to Jamaica, like a country you actually have a connection to, and you can tie to your story and your background, then that's where it really makes a difference. So we say all of this to say it's worth it to start doing this process early, because getting your child to think about who they are in this process and what they actually want is going to be a great predictor for success. So we really advise that students join in on our college advising programs, which start as early as grade 8, which is really aim early. It's not like college, looking at specific colleges, but it's building really great skills. We have pre-med and pre-law bootcamp this summer, as well as SAT. We want students who are starting college in 2025 in the June class. We want kids who are starting college in 2026 in the July class, okay? And we have a code. I think it's going out now. Dominique, please make sure. Of course, you came to open house. We've been here for an hour and 10 minutes and you're still here, so you know we have a code for you. And so, you know, encouraging you to sign up. The questions have been superb, and I think we've had a great conversation.
Yes, the pre-med bootcamp, just to answer a question, the pre-med bootcamp is in Kingston, Jamaica.
Kingston, yes. And the pre-law, both of them are at UA. Both of them are UA Mona. And again, I feel passionate about giving Caribbean students this kind of opportunity, because in the US, there are a dime a dozen, right? Every single university has a college summer program for high school students in all kinds of different areas. But we really haven't had that as a tradition in the Caribbean. And when Ali said she might be interested in law, we sent her to NYU. And wouldn't it have been great for her to understand law in the Caribbean context, since she doesn't want to live in the US, she wants to live in the Caribbean. So I was like, okay, we need to create something. So we've worked with professors up at UA. We have created a really awesome program. We work with MRC Learning Center, which is Mr. Bell. Onaje has been running pre-med camps for many years. Is well connected at UA, so everybody teaching the pre-med is like a really superstar doctor. They're doing real anatomy. They might interact with cadavers, dead bodies. I just can't. That's why I was never gonna be a doctor. But anyway, that's fine. And so yeah, what's your advice? I just migrated to Florida. It's like starting over. However, my baby brother is still in Jamaica. He wants to go to sixth form. I do suggest he goes to sixth form and come to AIM. That would definitely be the move. And I would say if he is, you say he's your baby brother, but if he's talking about sixth form, can't be that much of a baby. But yeah, no, we definitely, as I said, starting in grade 8, we're prepping students for success in life and in college admission. So send him to us, book an initial consultation, and let's get it done.
Okay.
Thank you, Doms. You sent me these on WhatsApp, so let's see if I can get it from you.
You can copy them.
Yes,
Perfect.
go.
Okay, so
I'm
I had
ready.
one quick question that I wanted to answer. So someone asked, how can I take preparation for the SAT for this summer if I'm leaving fifth form right now? So the best bet would be the June SAT class. So the June SAT class, the diagnostic exam is on the 16th, Sunday the 16th. It's online, and the first class is going to be the week of the 22nd of June. And then it goes all the way up until your exam at the end of August. And so what that helps you to do is that it has zero overlap with either CAPE exams, CAPE or CSEC exams, and it has zero overlap with actual school starting. So it's perfectly in the summer. And so you take your exam at the end of your summer break. So you've definitely used the entirety of your summer to do that. If the June class doesn't feel like your best bet at the moment, maybe you want to go travel, do other things with the start of your summer, then I would recommend that you do the July class. Now, the July class is going to start in the middle of July, and it's going to go up until the first week of October. So it's going to have just 1 month of overlap with school. But you do get the entirety of June and half of July off to go, do some other summer project if that's what you want to do. Take a break after doing CAPE, whatever it is. Those are 2 very good options. And then they allow you to take the exam in August and then October. And then you have sittings in November and December right after that, which allow you to super score without having to do a whole lot of prep because you've just done the exams, so you still remember a lot of the information. So those will be my recommendations if you're thinking about doing the classes over the summer.
That sounds amazing. There's a question here which makes me feel like, oh my God, I didn't tell you about this. And it's a little bit more about the college gateway, which I think is so important. I'm not sure if the student is here. Let's talk about the college gateway program for a minute. This is the what we keep calling the SAT class, which is really now the college gateway. So each of our SAT students is going to get a one-on-one call, which is a 15 or 20-minute call, I think 15 minutes, with a college counselor after their SAT score comes out. So once the SAT score is out, you get to meet with our college counselor to say, okay, this is the score I got, what do I do next? Is this score good enough for where I want to go? What's the strategy here? What are my next steps? And a college counselor will help you to figure out what those next steps are. The other thing that you get is a kickoff call, a group college-based like counseling session. And then at the end, you get another college counseling session as a group. And then each month during active application season, which is August, September, October, November, our active application season, because after December 1st, we're not in any argument about college application. Like the application would need to be sent out by November 30th. I don't care what your deadline is. I'm not in any argument because I know that there are hidden scholarships available and they're only available to students who submit before December 1st. And you can't find the scholarship on nobody's website because they're never going to tell you about them. But when you submit that, then they write to you and say, oh, we see your application. Would you like to, we think you'd be a great candidate for this scholarship. So, you know, I just turn a dictator at this point because I can. And I'm just like, well, if you don't like it, AIM is not a fit for you. And I have parents who push back and students who push back on this all the time, but then they're the same ones that want the maximum scholarship and they want to get into the best schools and they want to get into their top choice schools. And what I'm saying is the application them need to be done by December the 1st. And that's in the best interest of everybody concerned. So anyway, you get monthly group sessions with our college counselor, Q&A, etc. And so that is the college gateway. Now, if that is the highest level of access to college counseling that you can get, that is much, much, much better than just sitting at SAT class and trying to DIY. At least you will have some guidance. At least you'll be able to ask questions. At least you will be able to use information to make the best decisions. And then if you are humanly able to afford one-on-one help, well, that's what you need to do. So the College Gateway is a group-based SAT class with some college counseling on a group level. And then you get one meeting with our college counselor when your SAT score comes out. That's the Gateway. We did not even increase the price of the SAT class when we made it a gateway. We just absorbed it. We just put the gateway in there. We're like, well, I'm not going to deliver SAT class without a gateway to college, because what's the point? It's like, I'm not here to sell patty. Like, no offense, I love patties. But you know what I mean? Like, what's the point of doing something and not doing it? Yeah. So that's the College Gateway. And so that should answer the question that we had here. And if you did the SAT class last November, you can still be in the Gateway. You can still come on the group calls. Just send us an email, testprep@aim.edu, aimonlineacademy.com, or sharika@aimonlineacademy.com. We'll be happy to give you all the Zoom access so you can access the group-based counseling. Happy to have you in that. And then if now for one-on-one, you can be enrolled in our Platinum college advising program, where you get your own team and the head strategist, but you get a head college counselor, a essay coach, where you are in a WhatsApp chat with those people. I'm in a WhatsApp chat. That's the Platinum program. It's $5,000 US. And then if you are in the Gold program, it's $2,500, and the prices depend on when you join the program as well. And so the primary difference with the Gold program is that you get less essay support. So it depends on what your college list looks like. And then I am not in your WhatsApp group. We as a team review all students' portfolio profile and make recommendations together as a team. But I wouldn't be like in your WhatsApp group or giving sort of direct support. But you would have the AIM team, and they're excellent and obviously produce great results. Do you have to pay for the SAT? You do have to pay for the SAT test itself directly at collegeboard.com. I think it's like $75 or $100, something like that. The Gateway cost is $1,150 US, but now we have a code for you tonight that gives you a discount. Is 1,300 a poor score? A good score depends on where you're trying to go. 1,300 can get you intro level scholarship at Howard University, and it can also get you a scholarship at University of South Florida. Is 1,300 a good score for University of Miami? It is absolutely not a good score for University of Miami. You definitely want to have a higher score for that school. So it depends on where you are applying and where you're trying to go, right? Joined a bit late. Did we discuss the cost for June classes? $1,150 US for the Gateway. We ourselves have to get accustomed to not saying SAT class, but to saying Gateway. So yes, the link for the grade 11 and 12 prep college counseling sessions. So you book an initial consult. We always want to make sure that you're the best fit, your child is the right fit for our college advising program, whether Gold or Platinum. So students normally come into it through the initial consult. So get the initial consult done. We can sign you into that program as early as, today's Wednesday, probably as early as next week. You can have the initial this week. I'm on doing initials next week as well, which is different because I don't do initials as much, but I've had some requests. with parents wanting to have me for an initial. The cost of our initial is 175 US. The cost of my initial is 500 US. But I have there's a discount for it, and it's 300 US for students who are doing it next week, because it's like a summer special. But you totally don't need me to do a great initial, by the way. Like, I don't even normally do them at all. And here is AIM thriving, and here are students winning. So please don't feel like you need to do it with me, because or people are winning. So I already spoke to you through that. And we talked about everything else that was on because I knew what I wanted to share, and I just shared it. I'm not sure if poor Nalia, is Nalia still on the call? I am not sure. I did not get a prompt from, she's an Andrews girl, Life More Abundant. I'm an Andrews girl, and just wanted to talk a little bit about the SAT class. But we'll be posting a lot of different videos on our social media as well about students and their experience with our class. So you can always find that out. And then I think we have here the information to get registered. Use the code. We are so excited and thrilled to welcome you to AIM and to help your child maximize their potential in this process. And for you as a parent to know, like, at the end of the day, I just want to lie down and know I did the best for my kid. That is, like, as a parent, I'm like, look here, I will do everything to usher you right to the water. Okay, right to the water. Here it is, drink. And I just don't want to drop in too much pothole on the way to the water. Does that make it like I want a smooth ride if possible? And so we are here to smooth that ride, to smooth that journey. I would recommend that if you, as I said, if you humanly can, then do the college advising with one-on-one with the SAT. But if you're doing the SAT, it is now a gateway. So it is going to give you really great counsel and advice. And I think every single person, irrespective of whether they register for the SAT right now or not, should do an initial consultation, because it gives you personalized context, personal recommendations. And just it clears the path. You can see the potholes at least. You know what I mean? And navigate around. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Dams. Thank you, Brianna, for all of your wisdom. And I should teach a math class one of these days. Who said that? That is terrible. That is terrible that you should say that.
I know, since you're going back out into the field and, doing all these wonderful things with initials, I think you should go back to the roots, go back to teaching the SAT one of these days. I would honestly pay you to do it.
Did I teach you? Or
Nicole.
Did I?
No.
Listen, I have photographs of me in the classroom teaching SAT. It was epic. I was a great teacher.
I'm sure you were.
I would kick students out if they ever come with no homework. Don't even come. Don't even speak to me. I remember one time I had to apologize. Listen, I picked a student out of my SAT class who ended up going to Stanford. So she was clearly not there to waste time, but she never come with her homework. I'm like, I don't sorry for you. Bye. Leave.
We're a little nicer these days. These days, unfortunately, we're a little nicer. Those are not the trainings that I do not take
a soft approach to parenting. I'm just like, are you doing this thing or not? Okay,
and I think that is why I work in the teaching sector. and you are the vision.
That's what I do. I'm kidding. Listen, this is why we have all kinds of different people at AIM, right? I think I've mellowed over the years. That was when I was a fiery 26-year-old, and now I'm a almost 40, much more mellowed out version of myself. So Kerry was asking about the college advisory program. The first step for the college advisory program is the initial consult. It is not it's 5,000 US. It's not the type of program that we want you to just go on the website and sign up for. We want to really make sure you understand it, that it's the right fit, that we understand what you want, and we feel prepared, excited, and ready to deliver that. And the other aspect of it is we also have to feel like the fit is there program-wise. Because there's some people who want to just sign up, click pay, and then disappear, and we must be the parent. And we are not about that life either. And I feel like after 14 and a half years, I can say this pretty freely, that there are some services that will write the child's essay for them, right? I've heard of them. They literally will write it for them. That is not AIM. There are some that will just, you know, the child can just speak to us any way they want. You will be, these kids are wild. That's not AIM. No. So we don't just like, it's not just a dash out link, like just go and sign. It's like we wanna take you through the sequence and make sure that it's the right fit for all of us, because it's an investment that we feel, you know, really strongly about. And we feel that you know, making that investment should be something we both feel excited about. So if you are interested, Tanya said, love your approach. Tanya, at this point, I used to feel really bashful and like afraid to say, okay, you have to be a fit, because I never wanted to offend anybody. But at this point, I realized that if the fit is not there, it really just, it's not going to be successful. It's not going to be enjoyable for us as counselors. And I think that energy translates and the relationship just ends up not being viable. And so really just need to make sure that, you know, you're a fit for us, we're a fit for you, and that we don't end up in a situation where we have to end the relationship. And I've had situations where I have to end the relationship and refund the parents, because again, I'm not telling Patty, like this is a relationship that we enter into as college advising. Like it's a real, very close relationship. And so, you know, we need to make sure that we are aligned. So definitely, if you want to do the college advising program, do the initial consult. If you're not going to do the college advising program, but you need to have a plan and a timeline according to your child, do the initial consult. And no matter what, if your child is starting college in 2025, you need to register for the June class. There's no different information we're going to give you in the initial. We're going to tell you, have you registered for the June class? And then if they're starting in 2026, we'll tell you that about the July class. So you can go ahead and get that. So I need the soundbite of Nicole saying, I'm not selling Patty, LOL. I love that. That could be a great meme. It's like, why is she talking about Patty? I don't want the Patty people to get offended. I have a aim that
part of you that we use in the TA group, in the tutors and TA group chat with you crying. Do you remember that meme that we've had for years?
I know.
We need this one as well.
You guys meme all my emotional moments. That's okay. Lucky thing I have a broad back. Anyway, we digress. Thank you, parents. Thank you, students. Thank you to everybody on this call. Before you jump off the call, would you mind? I have a little thing where I just love to know which cities you're coming from. Would you mind dropping in the chat which cities you're coming from? Carrie, I already know you're coming to us straight out of Florida. I would love to know which cities you're coming from. I've been so excited. We have had students from Alaska. We have a student from Alaska this year. We've had students all over the Caribbean, actually, Turks and Caicos, Barbados, the land of my birth, Trinidad, Bahamas, Florida, Texas, New York. Did I say Canada already? Canada. We've had kids from Seattle. I just think it's so fun that we're doing this program and we connect from all these different points. And then, of course, St. Lucia. Wendy, we have a student right now. We're prepping to go to medical school in the UK, who is in St. Lucia, who is from St. Lucia. That's so exciting. Yay. Portmore winning, Jamaica winning always. Germany 2 years ago. How fun. It was fun teaching in the middle of the day. You had Germany, Dominique. That's so funny. Dayton, Ohio. Oh my goodness. We had an aimer from Kansas, actually. And then, you know, funny enough, I went to coffee at a coffee shop called Elena's and ran into them in real life. Now, if you've ever had a client online and run into them in real life, it's the most surreal thing. You're like, wait, what? You belong behind a screen. What? Oh, and it was a total moment. I just never expected. Her husband is now posted here for a job, and like she's just in the coffee shop, which was awesome. Awesome. A girl from Seaview Gardens with ambition that was the best for her little brother. That is lovely, Sash. You are like on the little brother, like that's lovely. Give him to us. We will take good care of your child. Now living in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Awesome, awesome. Kingston, Mandeville, St. Elizabeth. Oh, fun. Okay, great. Thank you guys so much. Dominique, I know you're jumping off now. Thank you. Brianna, thank you for everybody who is here. We are excited to welcome you to AIM. We are gonna make magic. We are gonna help your child to win, not just at SAT, not just at college admission, but at life, okay? So that's what it's all about. Thank you again. Thank you for being here. Take good care. Welcome to AIM.